I lost Gwen. I couldn't save her. I'm never gonna be able to forgive myself for that. At some point, I stopped pulling my punches. I got rageful. I got bitter.
Trust me, kid, I'm no hero.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So with the conclusion of the multiverse saga slowly approaching us with Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars in a few years, I wanted to ask the awesome question of what if the Spider-Men were in Deadpool and Wolverine? As a lot of you know, it's heavily rumored that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire might be making some kind of appearance in those movies, so I thought it'd be fun to wonder what those characters would be like interacting with each other. I also recently watched What If Season 3 and was very disappointed, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this myself. I'm gonna make my what ifs. I am returning. I hope you guys enjoy this one. I'm not necessarily going to be like script writing this because that takes way too long, but I just wanted to present this idea and kind of theorize what would this movie look like. So if Tobey and Andrew were in Deadpool and Wolverine, I think it would be the perfect tease of what's to come in Secret Wars. I mean, the void that we see in this movie is kind of a smaller scale version of Battleworld where Secret Wars takes place. I think the easiest way for this to happen is at the end of No Way Home when Doctor Strange is using his spell to send people back to their universes. What if he wasn't perfect? Maybe something went wrong with the spell, and instead of people returning to their universes, they got sent to the void. Now, all of a sudden, Tobey and Andrew, along with all of the villains from No Way Home, find themselves in the strange, dystopian desert world of the void. If Marvel was desperate enough to make this movie happen, I think 100% this is how they would go about it. So now this multiverse adventure for both these Peter Parkers is no longer fun. For all they know, they're stuck here for forever. I would have them wander around for a little bit, you know, telling each other what they missed from their universes. This would obviously give us a better idea of what's actually been going on in their lives, because for whatever reason in No Way Home, they kind of tiptoed around that idea. This wandering around would have a payoff, because the Amazing Spider-Man would see a familiar green coat lying on the floor. It's the coat of Gwen Stacy. He becomes kind of frantic, thinking that Gwen might actually be here too. This will make him vulnerable and unstable, which is very important for later. I think there's a good chance they would run into the Chris Evans Human Torch, and so both Spider-Men would be with him when he finds Wade and Logan. And this right here basically would be Secret Wars. I mean, we have two Spider-Men interacting with a Johnny Storm, interacting with Wolverine and Logan, all of them from different universes. I would love for them to incorporate some kind of connected history with these characters. So maybe Tobey recognizes Wolverine. I mean, Wolverine was actually supposed to make a cameo in one of the first Spider-Man movies, I believe, but for whatever reason that ended up not happening. So not only would Logan and Peter recognize each other, it would be revealed that they've actually fought side by side. This would connect the early 2000s X-Men and Spider-Man movies and paints a better picture of Tobey's seasoned Spider-Man having adventures with the X-Men. I think this little detail would add so much to Peter's character. I mean, in No Way Home, he had no idea who the Avengers were, but that doesn't mean he didn't have X-Men in his world. Let's not forget all of the reformed Spider-Man villains are also in the void, so that whole gang is going to have their own side quest throughout this movie. Because this is the void where lost bits of other universes get sent, these former villains could find things lying around to help protect themselves. I would see this as an opportunity to put them in the most ridiculous looking comic book outfits, because I mean, they're already here in the void. You could just say they found these crazy looking mechanical arms and powered suits. I say that because a lot of these guys don't have their powers anymore. So Electro, maybe he finds the suit of a long gone Electro variant and it gives him, you know, just enough juice to be able to use his powers. I'm not sure how that would work for the rest of the guys. For example, Kurt Connors has been cured of the lizard, but maybe something with the void affects them and they're able to use their powers to an extent. Maybe he has a Hulk situation where he can kind of bring it out when needed, or maybe when he's provoked. And I would love if Norman finds a Goblin variant suit. It would be armored, obviously. I mean, that's why they're putting these on, for protection, but it would be directly inspired by the classic looking Goblin suit from the comics. I have always wanted to see that in live action, as campy as it looks. We kind of almost got it in No Way Home. I know there was concept art that was a little more accurate, but this would be the perfect opportunity to put all these guys in their classic looks. I'm now just realizing that Eddie Brock was also involved in this whole multiverse exchange. God, Sony, why do you have to make everything so complicated? Okay, so let's say Eddie Brock does find himself with the rest of the villains, but he's been separated from the Venom symbiote. So now the Venom symbiote is out there in the void somewhere, and that may come into play soon. So back to the Spider-Man, I think this team of heroes completely destroys the Anarchy Avengers that are there, who in the movie end up taking Wade, Logan, and Johnny to Cassandra Nova. Instead, I would have them easily win that battle. For this fight scene, I would want a huge splash page of these multiverse heroes running towards the Anarchy Avengers. It would kind of have the same vibes and flow of the Civil War scene where both teams are running towards each other. Now, I don't have the means of creating that visually myself, but just imagine how mind-blowing that scene would be. That would just be a childhood dream come true. I would have Pyro attempt to make some kind of fake bargain where he says Cassandra Nova has the power to give them anything they want, including going home. But Andrew's Peter sees this as an opportunity to maybe be able to get Gwen back. Johnny Storm advises them to not go to Cassandra, and they all listen except for Andrew. He would have Pyro take him to Cassandra's base. Peter is able to meet Cassandra, and she'd probably say something like, she doesn't get too many Spider-Men around here. At the same time, a new prisoner would be wheeled in, and it's the Venom symbiote that Eddie Brock lost. Immediately, Venom would feel a connection towards Peter. Cassandra would do the weird hand thing that she does to everyone, and it's here she could see all of Peter's pain, at the forefront being Gwen Stacy. Cassandra tells Peter she can get him a Gwen Stacy if he tells her where the heroes went. Peter contemplates this. At the same time, Venom is yelling at him not to listen to Cassandra, and he's about to tell her what he knows, but before he can, Venom leaps out of his cage and onto Peter. This would be freaking awesome to see. Andrew finally having his symbiote suit. Cassandra now sees them as a threat and tries to shred them alive, but with my movie logic, I don't think this would work. She would kind of just be shredding off pieces of Venom, but he would just keep regenerating. This gives Peter and Venom the window to escape. I would have Johnny Storm take Peter, Wade, and Logan to the rest of the Fox heroes. Once again, this would be a dream come true. Seeing all these heroes from the early 2000s, Blade interacting with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, talking to Elektra, maybe Blade is aware of Spider-Man. I would love it if these Fox heroes, absolutely hate Wade and dislike Logan, but have a tremendous amount of respect for Spider-Man. In the comics, he is always going out of his way to help other heroes in their stories, and so once again, I think this would just enrich the history of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man universe. On the makeshift Sinister Six side, I think it'd be kind of interesting to have them stumble upon a tiny colony of just normal people. Because, you think about it, there is a society of evil villains that have banded together. There's a small team of heroes, but I'm sure there's probably a ton of normal people who have been pruned and end up in this void and, start a little community. This would be where they would find Gwen Stacy. I know this is kind of a lot for a movie, but let's just think like Infinity War Endgame scale. Those movies handled a ton of different groups of characters, and that's kind of what I would envision this movie to be doing. So they find Gwen Stacy, and she learns that there may be a chance Peter was also sent here too. So she sets off with them to find the Spider-Man, and the symbiote bonded Peter finally finds them. But guess what? He has the symbiote, he's not thinking straight. He sees Gwen Stacy next to all these villains. He immediately assumes that she is held captive. So he just goes berserk on all of them. Obviously, they're caught off guard because he should know that they're no longer villains. But this is my excuse to have Andrew Garfield finally have his moment in the sun and fight the Sinister Six. That would be such a cool twist where the Sinister Six have good intentions and Peter has just absolutely lost it. Him being stuck in the void, missing Gwen, all these emotions being fueled by the symbiote. Venom, he's also antsy. He doesn't know where Eddie Brock is. So yeah, Spider-Man absolutely annihilating these very underpowered Sinister Six. Some of their suits don't work correctly. They're kind of a bumbling mess. So Peter could look sick in the symbiote suit just taking them out, but it would also kind of be played for laughs. That is until it starts to get bloody. So even though this Norman Osborn isn't the same goblin that killed Gwen Stacy, I think Peter would still focus him. I'd have him about to kill the goblin again when one of his arms, right as he's about to strike him, gets webbed. And then we cut to Toby once again saving the day. This would be a huge crowd cheer moment. But guess what? Andrew has another arm and he's about to plow the goblin, but that arm is webbed. And we cut to Gwen Stacy webbing him. It's actually Spider-Gwen. I think audiences would absolutely lose their mind if this happened. This would be the debut of Spider-Woman, aka Spider-Gwen. It'd be a pretty cool twist because typically the love interest in all Spider-Man movies are kind of helpless in terms of powers, and so this is a Gwen who can definitely take care of herself. I think this would just confuse and anger the symbiote-fueled Peter even more. And so this whole moment I'm seeing as sort of a Revenge of the Sith vibe where Anakin is mad at Padme, he's mad at Obi-Wan, everyone's betrayed him. That would kind of be the vibe of this scene. Andrew would go after Toby because he didn't help in his quest to find Gwen. This is also the perfect window to have a Spider-Man versus Wolverine fight. Logan would step in to defend Toby. We'd get this quick sparring scene between Logan and Peter. Logan isn't trying to do any serious damage, just using his claws to intimidate Spider-Man, but once again, Peter is not in the right frame of mind. So he just goes after Wolverine, not really doing any damage, but increasingly annoying Logan. Obviously, eventually Gwen would be able to, free his mind. After Peter comes to his senses, I think he would eventually give the symbiote back to Eddie. So Toby would introduce Peter, Gwen, and the Sinister Six to the Fox heroes. I think the original movie's ending felt kind of clunky at points, so it's going to be kind of difficult to cleanly wrap this up. I think all the heroes and reformed villains would probably storm Cassandra Nova's fortress, and she would be waiting for them with her little army of Fox villains just like in the movie. But I think she would actually be a little scared because this time it is a lot more heroes. So I think she would have recruited a few Deadpool variants, maybe like 3 of them, and so these would kind of be, your higher tier, more dangerous villains that our heroes have to fight. So they can plow through the rest of the forgotten villains, but it's when they reach these unhinged Deadpool variants kind of gets risky for our heroes. Again, just imagine this battle. You have 2 Spider-Men, a Spider-Gwen, the Human Torch, Wolverine, Blade, Gambit, Deadpool, Elektra, and a comic accurate looking team of these Sinister Six. Yeah, this would just explode my mind. It might be a bit much, but this is a what if. We can do literally whatever we want. Once they reach Cassandra, I think while she's vulnerable, I think it'd be funny and very satisfying to have Venom just come out of the blue and bite her head off. And that's that. She wasn't that complex of a villain to begin with. I didn't care for her. So yeah, I don't think people would be complaining too much seeing her get her head bitten off. So our entire team of heroes would use the sling ring to escape the void and being consumed by Goliath. And then once they enter Deadpool's world, the TVA would obviously come in because they see a bunch of variants all of a sudden in this universe. They would want to clean that up and put everyone where they belong. What's cool is because this Gwen Stacy is a pruned version, that means her universe no longer exists. So I think it would only make sense for her to leave with Andrew and go back to his universe so he can kind of get his happy ending. If we never get a Amazing Spider-Man movie, we can imagine that he lives out the rest of his days with a superpowered Gwen Stacy. Toby would obviously go back to his universe. I didn't focus on him too much because I wanted this to be a soft Amazing Spider-Man 3. Toby's had his 3 movies, and I think his character is strongest in small doses versus Andrew. I think he can really carry a story based on his personality alone. Yeah, so Cassandra would never even get close to activating the Time Ripper. Again, with all of those heroes against her, it just made her mission that much harder. I'm actually surprised I was able to tie this up in a neat little bow. Trying to incorporate all those characters in this one movie was like, man, I don't know how they did it in Infinity War. You kind of get a big battle at the end without being too expansive and too dramatic because you would want to save the best for last in Avengers Secret Wars. This movie would kind of be a huge tease of what's to come. If you thought this movie was awesome, just wait until you see Avengers Secret Wars. This was my first what if in more than a year. They just used to take up so much time because I would script out every single word. I kind of just had ideas, bullet points of what I wanted to do, and then I just let my imagination run wild. My goal is to move away from YouTube shorts, but right now those pay more than my full videos somehow. So yeah, hopefully I can flip that and focus full time on you know, these main videos, because that is what I am passionate about. All right, guys, enough said. I'll see ya.